has BYU men's basketball turned a corner, and can they make a legitimate run at a top 4 finish in the West Coast Conference now?
And Texas and Oklahoma are staying in the Big 12 for it looks like 2 more years. Is that a good or bad thing for the new Big 12?
More Sooners and Longhorns. Welcome to BYU Sports Nation, presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. Happy Friday, February 3rd. This is how we do it. I'm Spencer Linton alongside Jarom Jordan. We're making history this March 31st.
Okay, for the first time, we're going to show the spring scrimmage on BYU TV. I know for a long time you've wanted it, we've wanted it. The team is going to let us in. We're going to show it. It's going to be great. It's part of a loaded day. No more media day on BYU TV, right? We'll be at media days. But at noon Eastern on March 31st, a 2-hour alumni day special, essentially a spring media day. The BYU Baylor game replay. That was fun. 5 Eastern time. The spring scrimmage is on our air.
Yeah.
It's about time.
Like
Can't wait.
It's going to be more like your typical scrimmage.
Yes. This will be great. And then the alumni game is back. That was so fun last year. Hail Mary, Max Hall to Brian Keel. Never thought we'd say those words. That is on BYU TV. So mark your Franklin planners and your white notebook if you're a safety zone guy, whatever, the handbook. Get ready. It's going to be awesome. And we can't wait. And, oh, by the way, that night, 9 Eastern time, men's volleyball versus USC on BYU TV.
Yeah, it would be all-day football, but the sport you're representing right now with your black sweatshirt.
We've got the volley.
Yeah, they're rolling, too. They are rolling.
Yeah, but spring scrimmage.
Spring scrimmage.
Hey, it's going to be a fun day. So we're very excited, and we're grateful that the football team, now that BYU is entering the Big 12, I don't know if it's like a rule or something. I don't care what the reason is.
Let's just ramp it up.
But we are in.
Yeah.
They've certainly, we've respected what they've wanted, which is we don't want to give away what we're doing. Now this year, I guess they want to give it away. I'm just kidding. They'll keep it basic. But we're going to see Keaton Slovis throw the ball.
It's entertaining. It's entertainment.
It'll be great.
In late March. And have we locked in Ty Detmer and Steve Young as the quarterbacks for the alumni game yet? Have we extended those invitations?
How are their arms? Are they still good?
I'm just going to go ahead and extend the invitation from BYU Sports Nation and hope that's okay with Jack DeMooney. But
yeah,
Steve
Jack
Young
DeMooney's
and Ty Detmer, you're officially invited to the alumni game.
Last year, Steve got a little upset that he didn't get invited. So that was funny.
I'm covering my bases.
Or is Max like, I'm still the guy until I get beaten?
Yeah. Oh, loaded show today, and high energy if you can't tell.
Okay, men's hoops crushed it last night. Spencer Johnson will join us on the program. He is shooting the ball so well, 63% in the league. Are you kidding me? Big day today and tomorrow at the Senior Bowl for 3 Cougs. Cam Mellor discusses the highest round potential for each of the 3 at the Senior Bowl. Keaton Slovis, 8th among the Big 12 quarterbacks on Cam's list. We'll ask him about that as well. Is having Texas and Oklahoma a full 2 years in the Big 12 a good or bad thing? Why would it even be a bad thing? We'll discuss. And are we excited to watch Fred Warner play flag football this weekend? I'm not. Here are today's headlines.
All-Pro Fred. See the way he pulled that flag? That was amazing. BYU men's basketball. Hey, they were amazing last night. Did not see this performance coming. They bounced back in a major way against LMU, 89-61. That's the 3rd-place team in conference. WCC and the parity there is just wild. Head coach Mark Pope on the improvement he saw.
We are getting better, and so it's a nice contrast from the game down at LMU to this game. It's a month later, and the guys have made huge strides, and I thought they were great tonight, and they showed it tonight.
Yeah, they showed it with only 7 turnovers, a season low. BYU shot over 50% for the game and held the Lions to 36% shooting. Fousseyni Traore had his 14th double-double of the season. BYU can get over 500 in conference play with a win against surging Pacific tomorrow night at the Marriott Center, live on BYU TV at 9 Eastern.
We got your pregame as well at 8 Eastern. Number 11 men's volleyball beats number 8 Ball State on the road. Nice win in 4 sets yesterday. 44 kills from the pin hitters, Mix Romanis, Luke Benson, Capona Brown, who's also had 9 aces, 3 from Gavin Julian. Same 2 teams tomorrow, 3 Eastern on ESPN+.
BYU women's basketball did not play last night. They'll play Saturday, but Lauren Gustin making news on a Thursday, named to the midseason top 10 for the Katrina McLean Award, given out to the nation's top power forward every year. Gustin is ranked number 1 in the country in rebounds, number 2 in all the land in double-doubles. BYU, big game in the Slim Gym at San Diego tomorrow at 5 Eastern.
Senior Bowl's tomorrow, 2:30 Eastern on NFL Network, as Jaron Hall, Blake Freeland, and Puka Nacua look to help their draft status with practices this week and the game tomorrow. More about the Senior Bowl from Cam Mellor later in the program.
We just mentioned it, Pro Bowl Sunday with All-Pro Fred Warner. Flag football teams, yep, being coached by the Manning brothers, which is always entertaining. Peyton will lead the AFC team. Eli will take over the responsibilities for the NFC. That game will kick off at 3 Eastern on Sunday.
Very exciting. Number 38 Gymnastics competes at number 22 Southern Utah. They are the Flippin' Birds. That's not a joke. That's a reality. Tonight at 10 Eastern on ESPN+.
BYU has scored higher in each and every meet of the season. We'll see if they can do that tonight. They'll need a 196.7 plus to continue that trend. Track and field, number 22, BYU and the women specifically will compete in the distance running competitions at the Campbell City Invitational in North Carolina. 8 total Cougars expected to participate in 3 events. The events begin tomorrow. Good luck to everyone involved.
Swim and dive is in day 2 of 3 at the Air Force Diving Invite. Good luck to the Cougs.
BYU men's tennis will play at Cal Poly in Provo at 1 Eastern today. The women's tennis team hosts Washington State tomorrow, their first home meet of the season. Both teams 1-0 on the young season. All rise and shout. It's time for What's Trending. BYU with a stunner against LMU. Not that they won the game. BYU was actually favored to win the game, but only by 3 or 4 points. Not by 28.
That was
Jarom.
awesome.
Utter domination
Fantastic.
against the third-place team in conference. What's Trending, as always, presented by Tim Daly Ford, part of the Tim Daly Auto Group, serving Utah since 1968. BYU was in 7th place in the WCC going into last night. There's just a logjam in the middle of the conference. After last night's games played out, the Cougars are now in 5th place, just 1 game back of LMU. Pretty crazy. So, with that said, do you see BYU turning a corner, and can they make a legitimate run at a top 4 seed in the West Coast Conference tournament?
They certainly can. It will require some really good play down the stretch, like a no slip-ups situation. Ken Palm has BYU favored in 4 of the 6. The 2 they are not are obviously at Gonzaga, at St. Mary's. If BYU were able to pull one of those 2 off, amazing. I don't expect BYU to win those games because I think the Marriott Center Magic was strong. BYU rose to the occasion, almost beat them at home, didn't quite get it. BYU is one of 2 teams that have lost to ranked teams by 1 point this year with Michigan State. Tough stat. BYU showed that it can play with them. BYU seems to kind of elevate with the good teams and sometimes go down with some of the lesser teams. But BYU is in a situation where if they can summon some sustainable parts of what happened last night, which was mostly defensive, the offense stuck out, the efficiency, the lack of turnovers, 10%, by the way, Cougar stats saying the lowest against a D1 opponent this year by turnover percentage.
Yeah.
That was awesome. But it was the defense, which is now 25th in the country by efficiency, that is sustainable.
Solid.
Sometimes you don't shoot well. That was awesome. So I think BYU is probably going to land as the 5 seed. Okay. That would be my guess. Yeah, like an 8-8, 9-7 kind of situation. If they are 4-2 or 3-3, that will kind of dictate what happens here. But I'm confident that there's certain pieces of what BYU did last night that can continue. BYU's going to play Pacific tomorrow. You mentioned they're surging. They've been up and down. BYU beat them by 20, allowing 49 points in the first West Coast Conference game, which feels like a million years ago.
There's that defense.
In December, right? And then offensively, 6-9, whatever. You only need 50 to win. Pacific is a team that you take care of at home. You got to take care of Santa Clara and San Francisco at home. You got to win at Pepperdine. 0-10 in the league. Like, they've been terrible. I know they're long and talented, and it's weird they're 0-10.
Firestone Fieldhouse has been weird. It doesn't matter.
They're 0-10 in the league. Like, go win there, right?
Got to beat that team.
And then I think BYU is in a position to perhaps be as high as 4. I don't see BYU at 3. I think that's probably Santa Clara's or LMU's spot. And then 4 is maybe one of the 5 is probably where BYU lands. But 4 would be amazing, all things considered. The emotions of what's happened in these close games, earlier in the season losing to South Dakota and UVU, the Bay Area road trip, which was super detrimental to BYU's pursuit of the 3 seed. We're not even talking about the 3. We're talking about top 4. there's still some good to be had here. And remember, last night was huge. If BYU lost last night, I'm thinking maybe NIT's not in the cards. NIT's in the cards now with the LMU win and with the positivity that came out of that game.
Sure. Yeah, BYU's resume overall has some quality there.
Yeah.
They needed to beat LMU, and the way that they beat LMU last night was really, really important. I can't believe I've reached the point, but we're here in February.
No, don't do it.
No, I'm telling you, this is legitimately what I did for an hour last night, okay? I went through the remaining schedules of each and every one of the West Coast Conference teams to just project what's most likely to happen.
I thought you were going to take NIT breakdown.
No.
Which I looked up last week and I felt, I actually called my bishop and I said, I need to confess something.
Okay. And then I compared it to what Ken Pomeroy is projecting all of these teams to finish out. And it's pretty close, but I am convinced that 9-7 is going to be the fourth place finisher. If BYU is 9-7.
That was fifth last year for BYU.
They will finish in fourth place. It is crazy. Yeah. And I've gotten to the point where I'm like, now I'm looking at, okay, which teams am I rooting for in each of these games? On Saturday, BYU wants San Francisco to beat Santa Clara, okay? Because Santa Clara has one fewer loss or one less loss than San Francisco. They would both have 6 losses if San Francisco wins tomorrow. And BYU, if they beat Pacific, they would be 6-5.
I can't wait to not discuss this.
Right? Year. As I'm telling you, in fourth place, okay? Don't care what happens between Gonzaga and St. Mary's. They're the top 2 teams. Like, they're going to finish as the top 2
I want
teams.
St. Mary's to win the league this year.
Okay.
I'm like pro St. Mary's.
All right.
I don't know why.
And you should root for San Diego to beat LMU.
Yeah. No.
Right?
We want, yes, the Dregs, which are San Diego and Pepperdine. They've got to
all of a sudden
clip a couple of the games.
If LMU loses to San Diego and BYU beats Pacific, the Cougars are in a tie for third place with LMU at 6-5, which is just nuts.
Yes, and maybe third place is like a 6 or 7 loss team this year, as opposed to kind of 4 or 5.
Yeah. If you win 10 games in this league this year, you'll finish third. It doesn't matter who it is. Like, if a team gets 2 10 wins, they will be the third place team.
not getting to 10.
They would require beating St. Mary's or Gonzaga on the road.
I just don't see it.
That is
not slipping up any but wear-outs.
But the point is, they can make a legitimate run at that fourth place finish because there's so much parity in the conference.
I'm thinking 5. I'm thinking there's one slip up against non-St. Mary's Gonzaga somewhere. If not, though, top 4, baby.
It'd be nice.
Show up on Saturday.
Yes, to get there. And
not Friday.
Start on Saturday.
Topic 2. Multiple reports say Texas and Oklahoma probably aren't leaving before the 2-year window of 2025 to the SEC at this point. So, is having the Longhorns and Sooners in the new Big 12 good or bad for the conference? And if it is bad, tell me why.
It's good for the conference because you have national brands that are sticking around. I know that there's a little bit of weirdness because they're a divorced partner of sorts, and they're just waiting for the documents and the papers to be signed so that the divorce can become official.
See each other at breakfast. It's a little weird.
It's weird. And Texas and Oklahoma, I believe up to this date, still have not, put out their own announcement about the Big 12 schedule. They just kind of retweeted what the Big 12 did.
They didn't?
Yeah, that's as far as I know. As far as I looked this morning.
They're like,
oh, yeah, here's what the Big 12
hey,
said.
Georgia won the national title. We did it.
So they're not super excited about it, but it's good for the conference, and it's fun for BYU fans because based on BYU being the only team of the newcomers to get both Texas and Oklahoma, fans across BYU Sports Nation were stoked because we thought, this is going to be the last year, and BYU got both of them. Well, now there's a chance that BYU is going to host Texas in 2025, and the prospect of that is really nice.
Yeah.
And I want BYU to play at Oklahoma to have that experience.
Yeah, 100%.
Go to that historic stadium and setting and play in Norman.
Yeah. Why wouldn't this be good? Huge brands, national interest, most of the time, really good teams. Texas is relevant no matter what they do. Even if they suck, they're relevant. Oklahoma's been the best team in the Big 12 since 2000, one of the best teams in the country. How many New Year's Six games since 2000 do you think they've been to? I looked it up this morning. I was shocked by the number.
I'm guessing 13 or 14.
17!
17.
New Year's Six games. They're unbelievable. Why would it ever be bad to have Oklahoma in the Big 12 the next 2 years? I think it's going to be great. It's going to be fun in basketball. It's going to be fun in all the sports. I want them in 2 years. Texas can afford it. Oklahoma can't. Oklahoma can't afford to leave early. Texas just writes a check from that away money.
They don't care. They don't care.
No, NBD.
Yeah, it's weird. They're getting divorced. We're waiting for the paperwork, but you might as well just make it as entertaining and with as much national brand power as you possibly can.
BYU and Norman will be really fun in 2024.
Let's make that happen.
Let's hope that happens.
I hope the conference, after making Oklahoma come to Provo in late November, it's like maybe we should give Oklahoma, we should throw them a bone and have BYU back in Norman next year. Or not.
Throw BYU a bone? Yeah. They owe nothing to Texas and Oklahoma.
That's true.
Well, they owe a lot of great years, but now they're upset. Yeah.
Our question of the day. It centers on basketball, and Big 12 basketball is going to be something. Holy cow.
I can't wait to talk about Kansas State and Oklahoma State. And everybody.
All the teams.
Baylor, Kansas. It's going to be great.
But first, it's the West Coast Conference and the West Coast Conference Tournament. Will BYU be a top 4 seed at this year's WCC tournament? They're in 5th place right now. Why or why not? Brendan Smith on Twitter says, yes, if BYU can finish the rest of the regular season playing like they did last night.
Okay, let's be honest. Is BYU going to play like last night, the remaining 6? No.
No.
Can they gather several sustainable elements from that? Yes.
And they can take advantage of playing on their home court against San Francisco and Santa Clara.
Absolutely.
And Pacific.
Yes, Dave McCann's tweet is true. If BYU played like that, they'd win the league last night. But that was a high. That was an amazing performance coming off 3 losses. You grab a few things that work, mostly on defense, I think.
Yeah.
And like Jackson Robinson coming off the bench was a wrinkle. That was really nice.
And LMU's big man was injured. Like BYU took advantage of them not having their big size in the post.
Yeah.
So there are things there, but yeah. Let's hope for every game.
Rick Asansa is not a 28-point difference, though. Let's not give that guy too much
100%.
credit. Jeez.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, coming up tomorrow night, 8 Eastern time. Again, every game big for BYU men's hoops down the stretch with 6 games to go. Pacific in town. BYU won this first game by 20. Big game. Got to keep it going at home. We got you on the pregame, 8 Eastern time. Game on BYU TV as well, 9 Eastern.
Up next, Spencer Johnson. A breakout performance last night, 14 points. He's in studio to talk about how BYU avoided going to a bad place after that gut punch of a loss to St. Mary's. This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by the Tim Daly Auto Group, serving Utah since 1968.
Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork sells Ford vehicles including the F-150, the pickup designed for work and play. Tim Daly Ford maintains a large inventory, providing more choices for selecting an F-150 with the power and engineering to carry and tow heavy loads. The F-150's design offers comfort, safety, and a range of options to choose from. Think Ford, think Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork.
BYU men's hoops dreams are flying high, but before hitting the hardwoods of the Big 12, they're shooting to leave their royal blue imprint on the courts of the WCC. Join us for BYU Sports Nation Game Day as we chat it up with Coach Pope on the team's growth, dive deep into player profiles, and keep it real on the Cougs' big dance chances. It's time to raise the spirited Y banner on our final tour of the WCC. BYU Sports Nation Game Day. Tune in, join us.
Johnson wills that ball into the hoop.
Johnson, 3, good!
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation. We are live in Studio B on a fantastic Friday, a winning Friday for BYU men's basketball. I'm Spencer Linton alongside Jarom Jordan. There are two Spencers in the studio right now, and
Did I leave?
the one sitting across from us is certainly the more swaggy and cooler of the Spencers. We can only
call him D1 Spence.
We can only try to get on that level. Yes, D1
D1
Spencer
Spence
Johnson in the house. Spence, thanks for hanging out with us this morning.
Yeah, good to be here. I like to point out, me and Jarom.
Hey, white 270s day.
On the same page.
Hey,
look,
white shoes as well.
I settled for the Vapor Max.
Yeah, I mean,
apparently I
you
didn't get the
settled.
memo.
You settled.
Well,
I almost wore my black
you want-
270s, and now I'm feeling left out.
Next time.
next time. D1
okay.
Spence.
Right?
That's
Yeah.
what's up.
He's the swaggiest for sure. Unbelievable performance from your team last
good.
night.
Yeah.
Given what you dealt with last Saturday night and the disappointment that naturally comes from losing a heartbreaking game like that to St. Mary's, and you and I talked at length after the St. Mary's game. We talked again last night after the LMU win. In your opinion, what was the biggest reason that you were able to come out as a team and do that and not go to a bad place?
Yeah. Well, it's tough, man. We had two heartbreaking losses, like the Gonzaga one, the St. Mary's one were both heartbreaking, just those buzzer beaters. And I think the biggest thing that we were feeling as a team is like we're right there. We're right there. And at some point, like the sun's got to come up, you know, like we're right there. And if we hang in there and we keep working and we stay positive, we stay together, it's going to come up and we're gonna get over that hump. And so it felt really good to actually like see that happen last night.
How'd you guys keep the pedal down the whole time? Because beating LMU by 28 and scoring 30 more points than you did in LA.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an incredible performance.
Totally. That's a step we needed to take as a team. I feel like, you know, we've been up on some teams and then we kind of let them get back into it and it hasn't really gone our way. So it's a step that we needed to take where we have a lead and then we grow that lead. And I feel like that's something our team's been able to do all year where we're trying to get better and we are getting better, you know, every single game.
So many aspects of this game are impressive. You just look at the statistics.
Yeah.
You out-rebound LMU by 11. BYU only turns the ball over 7 times yesterday. Which is a
Lowest
season
turnover
low.
percentage against a D1 team last
Yes. What was your favorite or, I guess, the most proud aspect of that game last night?
Oh, it was the turnovers for sure. For sure. I mean, you look back at, you know, some of the losses that we've had against Gonzaga, against San Diego State early in the year where we were leading, you know, a lot of the game, and it was the turnovers that just kind of like came back to bite us. So to have those 7 turnovers was, I mean, 28-point win against a really good team. It's to me, it was the whole story.
That was special. And now you get into a situation where last night it's like, okay, if you lose, you're in like 7th.
Yeah.
If you win, now you're sitting in 5th, but it's a battle for 4th place tomorrow night. Pacific's a team that you beat by 20, but it's been a minute. They're better. You're better. What are your thoughts on round 2 with the Tigers?
It's going to be tough. They're shooting the ball super well. They just barely beat, I think it was Santa Clara, right?
Yep.
They,
last week. Yep.
I mean, they're scoring in the 90s consistently, so definitely.
Which is weird for them.
Yeah.
Typically, they're a kind of grinded out team.
Yeah, and they've been changing their lineup a ton. They'll have, you know, this dude start one game and the next game he's playing 2 minutes and
Like 5 guards.
yeah,
sometimes.
it's super interesting. So we're definitely gonna have to be, you know, locked in on the scout and just on defense because they're scoring the ball like crazy.
And they shoot it well from 3, but you guys really limited them in game 1. That was a big deal.
Yep.
I just documented in detail that I'm all in on the scoreboard watching in the West Coast Conference. So I'll handle that for you and for the staff. I'm sending out tweets now through February of every team BYU fans should root for in the West Coast Conference to win to help BYU's status in the WCC. How much do you pay attention to what other teams are doing when you are in a race like this to get a better seed?
Not a ton. Personally, not a ton. I'm sure our coaches are like super locked in on it.
Which relative is feeding you that info, though? Because someone is probably, right?
Yeah, all of them.
They're like, dude, did you see
single one, yeah.
that Santa Clara did? Yeah.
No, yeah, but just paying attention to who we have next. That's all we can take care of.
And it's Pacific to get to 6 and 5. You just talked about the matchup with the Tigers for sure. How much do you enjoy a win like last night before like you try and make the mental switch to Pacific?
I don't know. I'm still enjoying it. That felt pretty good.
Understandable. You won by
should enjoy it.
28.
Let's let it
against a
roll.
third
Let's
place
let it carry
team.
over. Yeah.
You wait until practice today, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe I'll go get some Chick-fil-A from the Wilk, just kind of soak it in a little bit, and then practice hits. It's game on.
You should enjoy it, dude. Let's talk about your three-point shooting. Well, your overall play, but like you're shooting, what is it, Tyson? 63%, I think, in league? 61.8. That's why I asked Tyson. That's incredible in league from three. Mm-hmm. What is it about your shot right now that is going so well?
Just not taking super tough ones. I mean.
Now, wait a minute. Last night, there was one that you were feeling.
Yeah.
It was a step back. That one was a tough shot.
That one was a tough
But I don't
shot.
think you cared.
No.
Because you were feeling it.
Yeah. I tried my best Damian Lillard impression. Just kind of a little step back to the right, let it fly. As soon as I let it go, I told the guy, I was like, that's cash. And he like turned around and kind of looked at me, and I was like.
Your body language said that. Like when you put that one up, I was like, oh, he's feeling it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But no, I mean, just trying to, shoot the ball the same way every time. Worked a lot. I know you guys have talked to Trevin. They call him the shot doctor.
Yep.
So I worked a lot with him where we're trying to pick a spot on the rim, just consistently shoot it right there every single time.
Where is that?
Which is the back of the rim.
Okay.
So I'm aiming for the back of the rim. We actually have this really cool, they call it NOAA, and it's in our practice gym, and it tracks where your shots are landing in the rim and the depth that it also goes in. So we figured out.
arc and whatnot?
Yeah, the arc. And
yeah.
So we figured out if you can get it between a certain percentage, it has the best chance to go in. And then it also like divides the rim kind of like a cross. And it'll say like, hey, you're shooting 60% of your shots to the back left of the rim. And if you can move it, to the back right, you're going to go up, 15 percentage points or whatever. It's super, super detailed.
Well, it's gone up for you like 15 percentage points.
Exactly.
Right?
So I worked super close with Trev, and we figured out where most of my shots were where I was missing. And we're like, okay, we're going to work on pushing it, back a little bit and trying to get a little more arc. And clearly it's been paying off.
That's awesome.
One of the more entertaining aspects of my job on the sidelines is watching the benches react to your threes specifically, because everybody knows that you shoot the three well, all the opponents. And so watching Randy Bennett lose his mind when St. Mary's lost Spencer Johnson on the floor.
That's joyous for all of us. Let's be honest. 500 win last night.
Yeah, very entertaining. And then the same thing last night, watching Stan Johnson just like, he doesn't have any hair, but he was like really frustrated because they know what you're capable of doing. How do you continue to find open spots knowing that you're going to be keyed on, and how can you use that to your advantage for your other teammates?
Yeah, I was talking with Coach Fennell about this, and he was like, hey, you're becoming a bigger part of these team scouts. So he's like, you need to be able to mix up other things into your game where they're not expecting it, like throwing a back cut or, throwing a curl when you come off a screen. Just little wrinkles where he's like, it just keeps them on their toes just enough where when you do get that space, you just let it fly.
Yeah, and that's important because as you get better, you've got to evolve too, right?
Totally.
When it comes to what's sustainable from last night, because yes, you would love to play like last night every game. Let's be honest, that was incredible. You hope to summon parts of that. What is sustainable from last night in the final 6 games?
I know I talked to Spencer about this last night, but it was Noah. When Noah dived on the floor, he did it a couple times. It was super early in the game. He dove on the floor and he got that loose ball. I think that's something that's super sustainable. Like that got us feeling really good. Hopefully we can keep the turnovers low. Coming to 2 feet when we're in the paint and just making a simple decision. If we could keep that low, we can keep winning those 50-50 balls. That'll give us a really good shot.
You had 3 teammates make a return after a 1-game suspension yesterday, and clearly it had an impact. You just mentioned one of them, Noah Waterman, winning one of those 50-50 balls early to set the tone. Jackson Robinson hit a couple of big threes early in the first half. Atiki's length is a problem for opposing defenses. What were you expecting from those guys coming out of a tough situation last night?
Well, they're really good players, So I was super excited to get them back because we need them. Like, we need them to win, and they came in and they played great. So super, super proud of them.
Did you get to assess what shampoo and conditioner Kelly Leapepe uses at all? Like, did you get a whiff of
the big man for LMU?
At any point?
I didn't. Maybe a little Irish Spring, but like, I don't know. I could be off.
Did it smell bad? Did it smell good? Was it didn't smell? No.
It wasn't great. It wasn't great.
It's hard to understand the majesty of that mullet until you experience it up close and personal.
But the mustache too. The mullet mustache combo is like
very strong.
Yeah.
Very strong.
Who's that guy? Who's the guy that has the best hair on the team right now on BYU's side?
On our side?
Yes.
Maybe Braden Moore.
Okay.
Braden Moore.
He's buzzed it.
Well, yeah, he had super long hair, and then one day he just comes in with a buzz cut, and everyone's like, "B Moore, what happened? What are you doing?" And I don't know.
This was a sad day when
it was a sad day.
Did he join the ROTC? Which is him?
Yeah, he's shipping out for basic training tomorrow.
He's doing push-ups. What's going on?
All right, Spence, let's give you some BYU Sports Nation karma for the Pacific game tomorrow. Huge
good
one
luck tomorrow night.
As you battle to get into 4th place. We'll continue the scoreboard watching for you. We'll try and limit the relatives' text messages to you about what's happening.
You can't control it. It's just gonna
one game at a time. He is D1.
D1 Spence.
On
Thanks
BYU
for coming in.
Let's go. Thanks, guys.
You got it.
You can listen to the game tomorrow. Big one with Pacific, like we mentioned. Cougar pregame live, 8 Eastern on BYU Radio.
Plus, an Oklahoma State fan has fired just a big-time first shot at BYU and their fan base. Cowboys are putting the Cougars on notice. What's that all about? Up next on the show. Stay with us.
Them is fighting words.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Those who leave the most meaningful legacy seem to be the ones who never intended to. The same person who loses himself seems to be the same that finds himself. And why? Well, they give the best of who they really are with no thought of return. Find a cause you can put your heart into, my son, in which to lose yourself. I started the Deseret Donor Advised Fund for this reason. Because in the end, my greatest legacy is you.
They prefer to be bringing the heat, getting set for success, demonstrating their drive. But when their blood and sweat turns to tears or anything else, we lay the groundwork for BYU's athletes to hit the ground running again. And you as well. Intermountain Healthcare, official medical provider for BYU Athletics.
Before I was a coach at BYU, or before I was even a player, I was a BYU fan.
We've got great energy as a team, but we have even better energy because of our fans, and it's absolutely magical.
When you hear the crowd roar, that makes it more exciting, more of an adrenaline rush.
The roar of the crowd, you can feel it on the floor, you can feel that energy, and it's unlike anywhere else in the country.
BYU Sports, it's all about the fans.
This is BYU Sports Nation. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and maybe one day Be Real.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really going to push for that one.
I'm going to start a new one. It's called Be Fake. Oh, wait, that's what all the other ones are.
As possible?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Let's trademark that idea right now.
You just upload screenshots of things you wish you were doing.
He is
not what you're doing.
I am Spencer. Yeah. What we actually are doing right now is whipping it. The Cougar whiparound presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner.
Speaking of fake, the Pro Bowl is
what?
A flag football game. Fred Warner is going to be playing in it. Will you watch this?
I'll probably watch for a minute because I like the Mannings. I think the Mannings are super hilarious. And so their personalities will carry this. That makes me interested in watching that game. Also, I'll be on a plane, so there's probably more of an opportunity for me to watch that game while I'm on the plane.
Like a flat surface?
As in an airplane.
An airplane.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I will not watch.
You're not going to watch it at all?
No.
Even the Mannings involved?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Fair enough.
Watch a flag football game.
All right.
I'm good.
Will you watch the Reese's Senior Bowl, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll watch some of that.
That leads me to this question.
Mainly highlights, but yeah.
College Football Network's Cam Mellor is going to join us in just a bit. Yesterday, he ranked Keaton Slovis as the 8th best quarterback going into the Big 12. We're hoping he's in the Senior Bowl next year after having a great season. Do you expect Slovis to be higher than number 8 in that list of Big 12 quarterbacks at the end of the season?
We sure hope so. I'm hoping for top 5, top 6. Dylan Gabriel of Oklahoma, Quinn Ewers of Texas, Jalen Daniels of Kansas stick out. Will Howard played really well for Kansas State as they won the Big 12 title. So there's some good quarterbacks coming back. There's some questions, right, for TCU, Oklahoma State. Spencer Saunders went to Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Jackson Dart's like, I thought I was the guy here. So, yeah, there's certainly some good quarterbacks in the league. Hoping for top 5, top 6. I think that would accomplish what BYU needs. If he's 9th or worst, I think he probably underperformed and BYU's in trouble.
BYU's in a little bit of trouble. Then bowl eligibility is like,
Yes. Granted, there are a lot of good teams, a lot of good quarterbacks.
For sure.
Is BYU men's volleyball back, or are they Texas back?
BYU men's volleyball is, gosh, I don't want to say they're Texas back. Like, I just feel like that's such a shot.
That's just mean,
right?
And now we can throw those a little more relevantly. That's a word now because BYU Big 12.
Yeah, here's the thing: how long has BYU men's volleyball been down, Jarom? A year? One year. 1 year. Like Texas back is like, when was the last time Texas was really, really good? Like consistently. It's been more than a decade,
it's
right?
It's been a while.
It's Colt McCoy. Like, are we going back that far?
It's been a hot minute.
It feels that way, right?
For as much money as they have.
So no, BYU men's volleyball is definitely more back than Texas back.
Yeah, they're getting there.
They're building.
It's a couple of wins. I don't want to freak out over a couple of wins. Like, yeah, BYU's got Ball State Saturday again. UC Santa Barbara coming in next week, who's kind of struggled. 1-6, played a tough schedule.
They're a top 10 team.
Yeah, BYU's going to climb into the top 10, which is great. But BYU's, if BYU's outside of the top 5, typically that's below the high standard that is BYU men's.
They're not back until they're back in the top 5.
Probably.
Right?
Yeah.
An Oklahoma State fan account at Cowpoke_U, and he's a great follow, tweeted out the following. Hey, BYU Twitter, Oklahoma State's funeral potatoes are superior to yours. With a Val Kilmer gif with evil eyes. Laser eyes. Jarom, does the funeral potatoes comment make this a rivalry now? They're playing on a rivalry weekend.
Them is fighting words. But it's not like what happened with CFB home today. So Utah Football Stats Analysis said, hey, more news from the Groundhog celebration. USC's overrated. BYU won't be bowl eligible. At CFB home tweeted, Utah hasn't beaten BYU in 1,254 days. That is a fantastic tweet and some Groundhog Day content I can get behind. So yeah, don't you dare make fun of our stone cold soberness, our ice cream, or our funeral potatoes.
Yeah.
Are we coming for you, Stillwater?
And how dare you declare us not bowl eligible at this point?
How about you win a Rose Bowl?
Come on.
Okay, never too early to get ready for football season. We mentioned earlier in the program, in case you missed it, Friday, March 31st, noon, 2-hour Alumni Day special. 2 Eastern, BYU versus Baylor game replay. Spoiler alert, BYU wins in OT. Hug Jake Oldroyd. 5 Eastern, BYU spring scrimmage for the first time in history on TV. Let's go. And 7 Eastern, the alumni game. 9 Eastern men's volleyball versus USC. Huge day on BYU TV.
Up next, Cam Mellor of the College Football Network, expert in pro football. He's talking BYU at the Senior Bowl. Where's everyone getting drafted? And what does he think of Keaton Slovis' Big 12 rankings? This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner.
Introducing the Truck for Adventure, The all-new 2022 Nissan Frontier doesn't compromise on power or comfort. This midsize truck was redesigned to incorporate the latest technology and designs for safety, comfort, and convenience. Plus, with up to 6,700 pounds of towing capacity and best-in-class horsepower, it's rugged enough for adventure and still safe enough to transport all your favorite people. Where's your new Frontier? You'll find it at Tim Dowling Nissan Southtown and South Jordan.
BYU Food to Go's convenient location at 2191 North Canyon Road in Provo makes bringing popular BYU foods to your next event easy. Everything's ready when you need it at the drive and load pickup. You drive in and they load no matter the weather. And stop in the on-site creamery for great BYU chocolate milk and ice cream. BYU Food to Go, bringing campus to your table. Call for details, 801-422-5001.
BYU men's hoops dreams are flying high, but before hitting the hardwoods of the Big 12, they're shooting to leave their royal blue imprint on the courts of the WCC. Join us for BYU Sports Nation Game Day as we chat it up with Coach Pope on the team's growth, dive deep into player profiles, and keep it real on the Cougs' big dance chances. It's time to raise the spirited Y banner on our final tour of the WCC. BYU Sports Nation Game Day. Tune in, join us.
To the game, nothing was the same now. All the blood we shed too, we charge it to the game, charge it to the game, look.
BYU Sports Nation live on a Friday from Studio B. In the words of the great Montel Jordan, this is how we do it. I am Spencer Linton alongside Jarom Jordan. Joining us now live on Zoom, one of our elite contributors, and we don't use that word lightly, longtime friend of the program. He is Cam Mellor of the College Football Network and Pro Football Network, here to discuss, among other things, BYU's NFL draft prospects and Senior Bowl coverage. Cam, great to have you back on the program on a Friday.
It's a pleasure to be here as always, but also to be mentioned in the same monologue as Montel Jordan. You know, I felt like I made it last time, but now we're really taking it up a notch.
I called him a homie of the program last week. Yeah.
Yes, he is. It's a Friday tradition that we have on BYU Sports Nation. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. Cam, tomorrow the Senior Bowl goes down with BYU's Jaron Hall at quarterback, wide receiver Puka Nacua. We think maybe he's injured and won't play, and then Blake Freeland on the offensive line. From just an overall standpoint, those three guys, how are they performing in your opinion?
It's an interesting take. The trio of them each had their moments. I would say that Puka stole the show on Tuesday, the first day of practice, but then we haven't seen him since. And no word yet on whether that was his decision or it was an injury that kept him out of practices on day 2 and 3. Jaron had some amazing balls overall during one-on-one drills. Team drill seemed a little bit slow as the install was still coming in and receivers were running some wrong routes here and there. And Blake held his own at left tackle reps. He was also playing some right tackle, which is new, obviously, but also had some discrepancies that I think he's got some room to grow in an NFL offense. So overall, the trio had their moments and really proved that they belong in this NFL draft conversation.
Give us a sense of what the practices and the drills mean in the week leading up to it versus the game as NFL scouts and GMs assess these high-profile potential draft picks.
Yeah, it's I say what they do on the field is about 33% of what this whole week is like, or for the athletes, the seniors, the Shrine Bowl, all their bowl games. Because let's face it, there's not a lot of flights into Mobile, Alabama. It's not a huge airport if you've ever been to it. It's a couple of the tarmacs here and there. But overall, with the amount of people that are inside and going to Mobile, they're on 24/7 that entire week that they're down in Mobile. No matter, they're getting a cup of coffee. NFL scouts are watching them. Decision makers are in the same breakfast rooms as them. And so what they do on the field is very, very important, but it's about 33%. It's about cementing what we believe that they were on tape. But the rest is, a lot of it is the importance is the lead up to the game. And you'll actually see the attendance drop significantly from the week of practices. I believe on Thursday, everybody leaves. It's a mass exodus from Mobile.
Interesting. So when the actual game takes place, how much can a guy really help himself in that game scenario?
I think it probably varies by position. You want to make sure that you can see offensive linemen put continuous reps back and forth. You're going to have similar defensive linemen also that you're going up against as well in that situation. So I think quarterbacks, you want to see if they can install the offense. You want to see if they can run a 2-minute drill, because I believe each team is going to get a 2-minute drill in the game. So, it's not a lot on a bunch of the skill players, but I do think that maybe the quarterback and then the certain positions have a lot more that they can prove. But I think it varies, and it's not necessarily as important as those practices.
You mentioned recently that you felt like Puka Nacua could be drafted ahead of Jaron Hall. Based on what we've seen this week, how are you feeling about the three guys and that opinion of Puka and Jaron?
Yeah, I do think that Jaron probably cemented who we all thought that he could have been or is as a quarterback. Obviously not been in the room with his interviews with the decision makers, and so don't know, how well he's been answering maybe some of those questions that he's gotten, but I still think he's right in that mix as the 5th or 6th quarterback selected in the draft. That'll put him right at the tail end of round 3, maybe the beginning of round 4. Him and Jay Kane are actually, who are battling on the same team, are right in that same exact mix for that position of quarterback 5, 6, or 7. So for him, I still think Jaron is the higher drafted of him and Puka, but Puka definitely opened eyes and it catapulted his draft stock with that day one.
You said Puka stole the show in that one practice. Some boards, in fact, I've seen quite a few boards, don't have Puka getting drafted. You feel like he's done enough with this one practice and his body of work at BYU amidst injuries that he is a sure thing draft pick at this point?
I would say after Tuesday's practice, he's a sure thing of a draft pick. I think a lot of people were worried and concerned, obviously, about the injuries. But I do think, again, I mentioned 33% of it is what you do on the field. That 66%, 67%, if our math is correct, is him answering the questions in those decision-making rooms, those interviews with the NFL draft, the scouting departments, the gurus. It's a lot better to hear it from Puka than it would be to hear it from a representation, hear it from a media outlet. So all I would take is one of those decision makers to make sure that they like his answers and trust where he is in rehab, make sure he's just healthy. Basically, I think he showed enough on Tuesday to fully cement himself as a mid-day 3 pick.
At this point, what's the highest round for each of the three you feel like they could go?
That's an interesting question. I think Blake, highest he could go is probably round 2. At this point, I think there's some room for him to grow. Long arms, but he did get attacked with some hand fighting and lost some of those battles. Great balance as well. But round 2 is pretty high for him. I think he's right in that day 2 range, maybe round 3 for him. Jaron, round 2 is the highest, depending on how far we get down the quarterback well, so to speak, how many go in that round 1 range. And then Puka also, it would not surprise me if Puka was drafted in round 3. Just that athleticism and his size and his versatility to be able to play outside, inside, and everything that he brings to the table. If he's healthy, someone would fall in love with him, I guarantee. But rounds 4, 5, or 6 for Puka Nacua.
Cam Mellor is with us on BYU Sports Nation discussing BYU's NFL draft prospects. Cam, I know that the Indianapolis Colts really like Jaron Hall, but the Colts are probably going to take one of those top 2 quarterbacks with their early draft pick. So where does Jaron fit? What's a good fit in the NFL for Jaron Hall?
I think Jaron, honestly, the Colts, I don't know, he'd be pressed into duty pretty early in that situation. I think for him to have a veteran who's not quite aged out completely, have someone that can help him adjust to the speed or really give him some of the practice reps that he can help push the veteran to continue to perform at his best. I think a simplified offensive system that is sort of a vertical passing offense that allows him to use the arm strength and his accuracy, because we all know from watching him play over the past 2 years, the accuracy is not going to be an issue. Arm strength is not an issue. His athleticism is not going to be an issue, but using the vertical passing game to his advantage as opposed to relying too much on his athleticism will elongate his NFL career, but also be able to allow him to really shine where I think he shines the most. So getting one of those situations where it's pushing a veteran, ultimately being a dependable backup for years 1 or 2 before he has to really step into the limelight.
So my Seahawks would be the perfect fit, which is what I'm hoping for, which would be great. You did produce a list of the top Big 12 quarterbacks going into next season. Keaton Slovis at number 8. What do you see in Keaton that you like to put him at that spot?
If this was 2-3 years ago, I would have put Keaton Slovis right up there with the number 1, 2, 3, like in that top range for the Big 12. However, we may have taken a step back, and we are not quite that 2019 performance that knocked JT Daniels out and ultimately became, a talking point as a potential number 1 overall pick. Now, the Pitt offense didn't do a whole lot for him last year. It was not the Kenny Pickett offense from 2 years ago. It was a very pro style, almost like a Cal Bears, to pull it out West Coast type of offense. And that was not his strength. His strength is, again, a vertical offense, throwing 4 wide receivers out there and allowing him to use his arm strength. He has great accuracy. I do worry a little bit about some decision makings at time. And then also some of his ball placement can be a little bit erratic, we've seen recently. But I think getting him into a rhythm, 8 is probably his floor for where he's going to rank in the conference, and he can certainly get much higher.
Interesting. I do want to ask one follow-up question about Keaton. How much can BYU fans really expect from him, given that this is his final year and he has been at 2 programs previously? This is a well-traveled guy, so what are fair expectations for him?
It's a veteran leadership that gets brought into the table here. It's quickly becoming a place you can come and put your name on the map as a quarterback, and not quite repair. This is the first time we're maybe going to try to repair a quarterback's image in the NFL draft decision makers. But I think that it speaks volume to the program, but it also speaks volume. I think Slovis is still that kid, or he can be that quarterback that is a first-round type of NFL draft pick if he can put it all together. And so expect from him a veteran leader who's going to take over the offense and be a guy who is absolutely dependable, accountable, but also can maybe elevate this team. He's experienced in Power 5 play as well. So I think you have that most of the players on offense and defense on the BYU roster right now do not have that Power 5 experience. So, bringing a guy like Keaton in to lead the offense, lead the team is really a testament to him, and it's going to really challenge him as well. So I think, honestly, we can expect him to elevate the team and vault his draft stock.
Cam, I know every BYU fan hopes that at this point next year, we're discussing Kedon Slovis as a potential high-round draft pick. We shall see. We appreciate the time and your busy schedule, man, and the insights into the BYU guys at the Senior Bowl. Thanks for the time.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks as always for having me.
Cam Mellor, always a pleasure to have him on the show.
He knows what's going on.
His insight, his information, his expertise.
Yeah.
Really, really solid.
Let's got that BYUSN mug. It was off screen. And a cat. I think there was a cat in there.
Do we have a cat?
Did you notice that? I heard a cat, and it's not a little shadow.
Well, you can't have a pet cougar. It's the next closest thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Come on now. You missed any of our BYU TV Sports interviews, shows, games, Deep Blues, anything, BYUSN.com. Download the free BYU TV app as well. It's all on demand.
And up next, a rising shout-out to the woman who may be responsible for BYU basketball and Fousseyni Traoré coming back in a major way last night. Stay with us on BYU Sports Nation.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
If you're looking to build your brand awareness and increase market share as BYU moves into the Big 12, this is the place, BYU Athletics. We can provide the tools you need to make sure your company is seen and heard. BYU Athletics is where you can align your products and services with loyal fans that cheer for our Cougars. And they can also help your business win. Learn more about what a partnership with BYU Athletics and your company will look like. After all, this is the place. Email sponsorship at byu.edu today.
Here's the thing about BYU Sports Nation. It's a banner that unites fans all over the world. BYU TV and BYU Radio are all about bringing your family events and games live. On air, online, and on the free apps. It's the next best thing to being there, connecting your fandom with others across BYU Sports Nation. Download the apps and get exclusive access to analysis and interviews with players and coaches. BYU TV and BYU Radio, the place for all things Cougar sports. Tune in, join in. BYU men's hoops dreams are flying high, but before hitting the hardwoods of the Big 12, they're shooting to leave their royal blue imprint on the courts of the WCC. Join us for BYU Sports Nation Game Day as we chatted up with Coach Pope on the team's growth, dive deep into player profiles, and keep it real on the Cougs' big dance chances. It's time to raise the spirited Y banner on our final tour of the WCC. BYU Sports Nation Game Day. Tune in, join in.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
Boost! BYU Sports Nation's on demand. Download the free BYU TV and BYU Radio apps and subscribe, rate, and review to the podcast.
One game down this week, 2 more to go in this week's edition of BYU Sports Nation Fantasy Basketball. And things as far as the game last night returned to normal for Jarom and me. 69 points for you, Jarom. Through the one game, I put together a 58-point performance.
Hey, good stuff.
So minus 11 going into a Lauren Gustin game pretty much is just the nail in the coffin. You're going to win.
I think so. Yeah, and we both played LMU men's players last night.
It was pretty close.
Yeah, it was pretty close. 2-point difference. Shelton with 21, Kelly Lea Pepe. Who,
19.
Who reminds me of Ramses from Nacho Libre, by the way.
Ramses.
Like if you put a luchador mask on him and said Lea Pepe's quads are the #1. That would just make sense to me. It just really would.
Or you're plus 11. So
yeah,
it's going to take something special again from Nani Falatea and something.
She's been playing great.
Yeah.
She's been getting a ton of buckets. So, I am very excited.
Maybe something shocking from Gideon George, who's just kind of been quiet relatively.
Yeah, Gideon's been a little quiet. Yeah.
Okay.
He's consistently like solid to good to very good, right? You just need a very good performance there.
I'm just glad I didn't go over and I got it out of the way.
Yeah. I didn't even know until yesterday.
That's how much you care
Yesterday
about
morning,
this.
I was like,
I won again.
Oh, I lost?
Yeah, I actually lost.
Yeah, that's what Gonzaga's like.
Wait, what? We lost to LMU? I didn't even know till this morning.
By the way, St. Mary's hosting Gonzaga this Saturday night. Huge game.
Massive game. I will be watching
this Saturday night. Tomorrow night. Yeah.
I'll be watching every West Coast Conference game because we're in February and I'm scoreboard watching.
Yeah. Yeah, I just watch Big 12 games now. I'm a year ahead.
Our question of the day, will BYU basketball be a top 4 seed at the WCC tournament?
That'd be awesome.
Why or why not? Our elite voice of the day presented by PAX Healthcare Elevated. From Jonathan Hawk on Twitter says,
if super fan.
BYU plays like they did last night for the rest of the regular season, they will be a top 4 seed. That's so much to ask.
They'd be the 3 seed.
You want them to be they'll beat St. Mary's or Gonzaga probably if they play like they did last night.
Yeah,
shoot 56%.
Grab some sustainable elements, yeah.
Limiting turnovers, he said, keys for BYU to be a top 4 seed.
Yeah.
Today's Rise and Shout Out presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics. Let's give it to Fousseyni Traore's tutor, Jess. And I walked in.
Jessica Mullen.
Yeah, to do the film room shoot, and she's there helping him with his homework.
Always.
And he said, she's so good for my mental health this week. They just helped me focus on schoolwork and stay in the game.
You forget they do more than play the game.
I thought that was pretty cool. And in fact, here's the soundbite.
Like I said, okay, I just had to focus, and Jess actually helped me a lot, she tried to talk to me, make sure everything is good, Jess, yeah, my tutor there, she helped me a lot, and I was just able to forget about everything, focus on my homeworks, because I got 3 tests. I got 2 tomorrow and 1 next week, and I'm just ready to go take them,
Good luck on those tests.
Let's go.
Jess stands under the basket at every game.
She's awesome. Yeah. She's #1 fan.
The #1.
All right, our thanks to today's guests. Cam Mellor was fantastic, and of course Spencer Johnson in studio.
Sorry to Dennis. No time.